Hello, this is Getrude Matshe here in Wellington, New Zealand. Welcome again to the Italian Book Club. Today I have got a very interesting author by the name of Tove Vine, an amazing woman who is based in Guangzhou, China, has written 3 books and is here to share what has been her experience writing 3 books in the last 6 months. Tove, welcome to the Italian Book Club. How are you today?
I'm fantastic. Thank you, Gertrude, and thank you so much for inviting me to this interview. I'm sitting in Guangzhou, China, in the south of China. Guangzhou is a city, the 3rd largest city in China, and it's about 2 hours by train northwest of Hong Kong. And I have lived here for almost 11 years now.
So, Tove, tell me about your books. Let's start with the first one. The first book is called TIC, and I'm going to ask you to explain what TIC is all about and what that acronym actually means and how you came about giving the book that title.
Okay, the book is called TIC This is China, and the chose this title is that when you live in China as a foreigner, you will many times come across something which is so different to the culture which you are used to living in a Western country. And sometimes those cultural differences are not as pleasant as you would like them to be. So foreigners very often use that expression, "TIC, this is China," just to remind ourselves that we are living in a different culture, and because we are visitors in this country, basically we need to accept this new culture. And yes, many times to myself I have said, "TIC, this is China," when somebody or has done something which is quite unpleasant, like perhaps spitting on you, for example, because that happens a lot. This is just very normal in China, people spitting in the street. So one day it actually happened. A man spat in the street and he hit my foot, and I was wearing sandals, so that wasn't very pleasant. But I just said, "TIC, this is China," and I continued on. So that's the title.
So I guess the first book was all about the culture shock that you experienced, the different way of being and doing that is so foreign to you, and you being in that environment and just accepting it for what it is, correct?
Yeah, the first book, TIC, it's basically around the very first decision that I made to change my life when I lived in Brisbane, Australia. I was working as an accountant for a big company, and I felt my life was going nowhere. I felt my life was uninteresting. I was 57 years old, and one day I was having coffee with a girlfriend, and I was complaining to her about my uninteresting life, and she said 9 words that would change my life forever. She said, "Why don't you go to China to teach English?"
Wow.
4 months later, I took most of my belongings. I had studied for my TESOL certificate, and I was in China teaching English. That was how quickly I made the decision and changed my life. It was a little
That's
scary
incredible.
because, as I said, I was 57, and it's quite late in your life to sort of change your life completely. But I was brave enough to do it, and the first year in China was very interesting because you had to get used to a new culture, had to learn a new language, and as I'd been an accountant in Brisbane, I had to learn how to become a teacher in China. I had never been a teacher before, so it was a very interesting experience. So the first book is actually about the first 1.5 years in China.
Now, your second book is a sequel to the first. It's called MAD, or MAD, Making a Difference in China. What inspired you to write the second book, and what is that about?
After I'd been teaching English in China for a while, I realized how I could make a difference to the children's lives in China, the children who come to my English classes. The first year I worked for a school, but then the second year I set up my first private English school. And now, after 11 years, I actually have 12 private English schools throughout the city of Guangzhou. And I
Wow.
realized that in the Chinese schools, there are 45 to 50 students in each class. So the teachers cannot give the children attention. So I found with the children coming to my private school, where I only take 10 students in each class, I could make a huge difference by giving very special individual attention to each student. And I could help them gain confidence, and as they gain confidence, their English would improve. So I just found that I really had
So,
a purpose in China.
about that, um,
Sorry, I can't hear you.
and the personal touch also came from your age. The children could relate to you more. I'm pretty sure that parents would rather pay. I'm pretty sure that parents would rather pay a more mature teacher to look after their kids as opposed to a young freshman coming out of college. So your wisdom and experience really came in your favor in that sense.
That is really true, Gertrude. What I is that the parents just the fact that they have more of a mature age woman teaching their children. Like I'm like a grandmother type to the children because I have a great love for children, and I give them lots of affection and encouragement, and I love them as if they were my grandchildren. And the parents can see that, and the children really improve so much under my teaching, which, well, I teach from the heart, so to speak. I'm not a trained teacher
Fantastic.
as such, but I have lots of life experience and having brought up a daughter myself. So I draw on that experience to teach and the parents really love that.
Now, let's talk a little bit about your background and where you're from, because making a difference in China is more than just teaching children English. I mean, I've met you, I've read all three of your books, and you have a very interesting background, which I think has influenced the way that you are and the reason why you do what you do. So let's just let our listeners get to know a little bit about who Tove is. Talk about your background, where you're from originally, and what was your life like there.
Sure. I do have a very interesting background. I was born in Denmark in a little village, and I was born number 11 child in a family of 13, and my parents were just peasants, just very hard-working people working in the fields and just any odd jobs which they could find because they were not educated. And due to poverty and lack of money, all us children had to leave before our 15th birthday and own way in the world. I was quite a clever child and I loved school, but unfortunately I had to leave school after primary school, so I had no high school education, no education. And I just got a job, you know, as a maid and as a factory worker, but eventually got a job in an office and then studied at night for a business diploma. I went to London as an au pair girl and then on holiday to Jersey in the Channel Islands, where I met a very handsome Australian who was to become my future husband. And that's how I came to emigrate to Australia years later. So I'm Danish by birth, but often by choice. And in Australia, I was married for 18 years and I had a daughter. But then my marriage ended and I lived like the single life for quite a few years before I then decided to go to Australia. And the reason why I feel so passionately about educating children is because I had no education myself. And in my holidays in China, and there are many school holidays in China, I put on a backpack and I traveled to an orphanage in Cambodia, Vietnam, Nepal, India, or Tibet, and I teach English as a volunteer. Because children who live in an orphanage, they usually have no other opportunity to learn English than, you know, if a teacher will come and teach as a volunteer. And I love that, and I'm making a huge difference.
All right, so let's talk about your third book. I know it's still a work in progress, but a lot of people have asked you how you did it. How would you have the courage to just drop everything, go to a foreign country, and still be there? This is now your 11th year. The next book is called Gap, which is Get a Purpose in China. Let's talk a little bit about the third book and what you're trying to achieve with that book.
The third book is, as you said, Get a Purpose, teaching English. What I've found over the last 10 years with the many trips which I have made, I've actually made 100 trips in the last 10 years. So I travel about 10 times a year to different places. And something which I'm constantly asked by women, especially women in the third chapter of their lives, like 45 plus, who may be a little lost in their lives because they may be single due to divorce or separation, or their husband may have died, and their children now have their own lives. So women at that age, they are often seeking a different life. And they hear about my life and they say, wow, how can I do that? How can I go to China or an Asian country and teach English? And this is why I wrote the book. So it's a how-to book. It is step-by-step what anyone needs to do to get the qualifications to teach English as a second language by studying for their TESOL certificate, and then how to find a job in China, helping them settle into whatever country they choose to go to, may it be China, Vietnam, Thailand, Cambodia. Because the first few months of living in an Asian country can be quite overwhelming.
Yes.
Because the culture is so different.
Yeah. So you're really being a mentor. You're being a coach. You're making it easy for other people to come, as opposed to going through the struggles you went through when you first got there. Correct?
That's correct. Yes, that's correct. Yeah.
Fantastic.
And
well,
also,
Tove.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
I'll let you put in the last word.
Sorry, I can't hear.
Okay, so I just want to thank you so much for coming onto the Italian Book Club today and sharing a little bit about yourself. Like I said, the Italian Book Club is really looking forward to your coming to Europe later in the year and hopefully having another interview while you're in Rome. And good luck with everything. Good luck with your third book.
I would like to just encourage anybody who are out there, you know, who might be thinking of writing a book and not having the courage, because many people feel that they have a story to tell, but they don't know how to tell the story. So I would just like to encourage anyone that's listening to this interview, if you feel you have a story, you need to get in contact with Gertrude. And Gertrude, you are the perfect coach for any new authors. Anyone that feels unsure about how to get started and how to get a book, get it published, and get it launched, you will be there step by step to help all the new authors get a book published. Now, you helped me over the last 6 months to get 3 books written, and 2 of those books are published now, and they are out there in the marketplace. They are on Amazon.com, and I am so happy with my books. It's just been an absolutely amazing journey the last 6 months. It really has, and I'm so grateful to you for being there with me every step of the way and made everything so easy. You made me believe in myself, which I didn't before. I was thinking, who would want to listen to my story? But you made me believe that my story should be told. And I know that there are so many people out there that have a story inside them, but they just need getting that story out. And you are just the perfect person to help them.
Thank you for that endorsement, Tove. I think we are all part of a social revolution, really. This is how I'm calling it. Giving people the opportunity to leave a little bit of themselves behind. Again, just propping people up, giving them the confidence that they need to leave their legacy. And I think in what you've done, you're an amazing example of that. So thank you again for taking part in this interview.
You're welcome. It was a pleasure. Bye-bye from China.
Bye.